I remember the first time I heard the saying, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. I heard it, I think Rachel Hollis said it, but it turns out Derek Sivers is the one who's credited with this. He said it on a Tim Ferriss podcast. And I remember being blown away like, wait a minute. I am allowed to say no if it's not a hell yes, because I was doing a whole lot of saying yes and very little of that was a hell yes. In fact, I say stupidly, but I had decided to label the entire year as the year of yes. And this was before Shonda Rhimes wrote her book, The Year of Yes. She may have copied me, who knows? But I had, labeled each year as the year of no cheese or the year of yoga or whatever. And so somehow I decided to say the year of yes and basically say yes to everything, including things I didn't really want to do. So when I heard if it's not a hell yes, it's a no, it was eye opening for me. That year, I had said yes to starting a book club. I'd said yes to a supper club, to being my son's second grade like event planner for his class. I had said yes to so many things, and they all had two things in common. First, I felt dread before I did them. Now, supper club wasn't that way in the beginning, but eventually it was kind of like, ugh. The second thing is I would have a what was I thinking moment as I was doing it or right before I was doing it. So, right now in your personal or your work life, what are some things that you dread on a regular basis? Or what are some things that you have that thought, what was I thinking? And that's a good clue that those are the things you may want to say no to. So that's what we're talking about today, the hard no. And I don't mean that no is hard, it is hard, but I mean like no. No's a complete sentence. What do you need to say no to? What do you need to give yourself permission to quit? We talked about quitting on another episode a few weeks ago. So that's not what this is about. This is about living in alignment. Um, I told y'all one time about the truck that I used to drive when I scouted cotton. It was called Old Buck, and it was my dad's truck, like his hunting and fishing truck, and it was a 1984 Datsun pickup truck. And it had no power steering, it was out of alignment. It would pull me off to the right side of the road, and if I didn't watch it, I would go in the ditch. So that's what this being in alignment is about. So you may say, why are we even talking about this? Yeah, I'm going to have to say yes to things I don't want to do. I'm going to say no to some things and yes to others. But if you are living your life saying yes to things that you don't really want to do and to situations you don't want to find yourself in, you are going to find that you're out of alignment. Just like that truck, you're going to be pulled in a different direction and you're going to end up in a different destination than you would if you were able to listen to your body and say yes to the things that you want and no to the rest. So, really, in your life, like big picture, grand scheme of things, you will not be where you want to be. I mention this all the time, the five regrets of the dying. When hospice patients were interviewed on their deathbeds, their number one regret was that they didn't live lives true to themselves. They instead did what they thought they should do. They did what other people wanted them to do or what they thought other people wanted them to do. So, if you can learn to check in with yourself, I'm going to give you some questions to ask yourself before you say yes. If you can learn to do that, you are going to find that your path is completely different than the one you're on, unless you're already really good at saying no to the things you don't want to do. So, I switched over after that year of yes, when I was completely depleted. I switched over and said, next year, I'm doing the year of no. And January of that year, a lady at our church, who's kind of the matriarch, she came up to me in the lobby before church and she acted like she was presenting me with this wonderful opportunity. like I had won a contest or won a vote. And she said, Hope, we have decided that you would be the perfect acolyte organizer. And I was like, when somebody asks you that and they phrase it as like, you've been chosen. Now, I did not want to be an acolyte organizer. It did not feel good in my body. When I imagined it, it didn't light me up. And yeah, sometimes you are going to say yes to things that you don't want to do, and we'll talk about how to handle that. But in that moment, I had resolved. It was the year of no. So I said, I'm going to have to decline. I don't think that would be a good fit. Now, the old Hope would have said, I need to, maybe I should pray about it, or thank you. Yes, I will do it. And you know what I felt in that moment? The reason I know I made the right decision, I felt immense relief. So it's the opposite of that dread feeling. And you'll feel this in your body. So if you say yes to something you don't want to say yes to, that's out of alignment, you're going to feel tight, constricted. It's going to be like, people will do this movement with their hand, their fist, like tighten it up. If you are in alignment, you are going to feel relief, freedom. You're going to feel open. You're going to feel like you can breathe. You'll feel it in your body. Um, there is an exercise that I learned in life coaching, and it's called the body compass. So we're going to get to that in a second because that is a great tool. If you're in the moment and you're like, what do I say? I don't even know what I really want. Then that's a good way to get you to your answer. Okay, so let's look at why we say yes. Why do we do it? I came up with top reasons. I just pulled this out of my own head because I'm a recovering people pleaser. So number one, we don't want to disappoint other people. Go back and listen to the people pleaser episode. I tell you about Dr. Becky Kennedy. She's a child psychologist, and she gave the best metaphor on people pleasing that I've ever heard. And I'll shorten it for you right now. It's like a tennis court. You imagine a tennis court. You're on one side, and whoever has a need that they're asking something of you, they're on the other side. And you and your needs are on this side, and it is your job to take care of your needs. But what we as mothers do is we are so worried about the other person and their side of the tennis court that we leap across the net and we grab their emotions or what we think. We don't even know for sure that those are their emotions, but we think they're going to be so upset or disappointed in us. And we grab those. And Becky Kennedy says we shove them into our body. Like we'll have physical symptoms of disappointment. I know they're going to be so disappointed. They're going to be so sad. They're going to think bad of me. And that creates like we have physical symptoms in our body, and we need to stay on our own side of the tennis court and take care of our needs. They're on their side, they're going to take care of themselves. And if they don't, it's not our business. Okay, so that was the first reason. We don't want to disappoint the other person. And this number two goes along with this. We put their needs above our own needs. What they want or what we think they want, we don't even know for sure, but what we think they want matters then more than what I want. Number three, we don't think we deserve to say no. So in that moment, I didn't want to disappoint this lady in my church. So that was the top reason. I just imagined her face and how crushed she would be. And it turns out she was fine. She probably had a backup plan. Number two, we put their needs above ours. I started thinking about those, middle schoolers or elementary school age kids who are the acolytes. And I was thinking they really do need somebody to like be there for them and mentor them. I was putting their needs above my own needs. Hope did not need something else to do on Sundays. All right, number three was we think we don't deserve to say no. And I remember in that moment thinking, I only volunteer on one committee at church and it only meets once a month, the mission committee. And, I don't deserve to say no because some of these people are volunteering for like two things. on Sundays. Number four, we think that the future us is going to be excited. So the future me, like when this acolyte thing starts in a few months, is going to be fine with this. Like, yeah, I'll say yes now and I'll worry about it later. So that's not the case. I would not have been excited about it in the future. Number four, I already said that one. Number five, it's easier to say yes. Y'all know it's so much easier to just say yes, but this is not what we're going for. We're not going for feeling better in the moment. We're going for like big picture. This is your life. This is your one wild and precious life. All right, number six, we imagine what everyone will think of us if we say no. I mean, you do this because I do it too. I imagine that there are people in a room, some committee or some group, and they're having this conversation and they are calling me selfish. And selfish is one of like the things I most don't want to be called. So, but if you boil it down, I'll get to the everyone because really it's not this is not the case. This is our egos convincing us that everybody cares what we say or that we if we say no, we're going to have all these people mad at us. Number 7, this is a big one. We don't know what we really want. We don't stop and check in with ourselves. So we're going to go straight to that one. We don't know what we truly want. Martha Beck also talks about what do you yearn for versus what do you want. You might want a beach house, you might want a Tesla, but what do you yearn for? Like, what does your soul want? That's a deep question. And you have to get quiet and you have to do some work to figure that out. It's not just going to like pop into your head. So I want you to try this. I want you to practice saying no. And you can even like say just kidding after you say it. But for the next like 4 or 5 hours, I want you to say no to everybody. So even if your boss comes over and says like, Hope, can you see this patient? She was running late and we're going to work her back in. I want you to practice saying no. And like I said, you can say just kidding because I don't want you to get fired. Some things you have to say yes to. But if it's like, Mom, can you come pick me up from school? Just say no and see what they say. Just wait a few minutes, a few seconds, and just see what happens. If your spouse is like, do you want to go camping this weekend? No. And just see. It's so, you're going to have to get used to this, but it's an uncomfortable feeling at first. And then ask yourself, like, why you feel like you can't say no and go through that list. Like, is it that you don't want to disappoint the person? Is it that their needs are more than your own? I do this all the time with kids. I will put their needs. My son likes to be dropped off at school despite being able to ride his bike. And my prime writing time is in the morning. And so he'll say, Mom, can you please take me? And I put his needs above my own and I convince myself of all these things that are going on in his head, like he'll think that I love his sister more than him because I dropped her off, or he'll be so disappointed. What if he runs late? What if he? So it's important to identify why you're having such an issue with saying no. What's the story in your head? Okay, let's go back to the deserve. Is it true that you don't deserve to say no? So I got asked to volunteer for this thing at my kids' school when I first started working part time. And I thought, well, I've been gifted with these 2 days off a week. Like, I don't deserve to say no. Yeah, if I worked 5 days a week, I would deserve to say no. So, this is the question I want you to ask yourself if you are of the deserve mindset. If you say no, what are you making it mean about you as a person? What are you making it mean about you if you quit something or if you say no? And that gets to the crux of that's your issue and that's something you need to work on. It has nothing to do with that other person. Um, People will keep asking you, like, so one of our kids' therapists one time said, You know, I know sometimes you're good with boundaries, Hope, but you say yes and cave often enough when they ask you something like, "Can I have more game time?" or "Can I stay up late?" or "Can I have more sugar?" She said it's like a gambler. Like if they win often enough, even if it's like they only hit the jackpot once every uh, 6 months, it's often enough that it entices them to keep pushing and to keep asking, to keep playing the game. And so kids are like that too. That's why it's important to have these boundaries. That's why we're going over this, whether it's your kids, your husband, or your boss. You got to have some boundaries. Um, I heard a story about, I think this is on the multiple sclerosis website. It talks about the number of spoons. So the story is that a newly diagnosed lady went to lunch with her friends. So she'd just been diagnosed with MS. She's sitting at lunch with her friend, and the friend is asking her, like, what is life like now? Like, how are things different now that you have MS? And so the lady with MS said, well, she picked up a spoon. She said, it's kind of like this. I used to have like 100 spoons. That was my energy for the day. And I would usually have spoons left over at the end of the day. I could do a million different things. Now it's like I have 20 spoons and I have to really pay attention to what is using up my spoons. Like if I get up and decide I'm going to go exercise and then I'm going to cook my breakfast and then I'm going to, do laundry, that may use up 3 spoons. And when you only have 20 spoons, you have to really think about what you're saying yes to. And, if I use up all my spoons early in the day, I am completely depleted and I'm not going to have any of myself left over. So think about that when you're saying yes. Like if you had a limited number of spoons, you're going to use them up. And you might want to use, two on each kid, or you have to use five on your workplace because you have to earn a living. But imagine that everything you're asked to do is using up your spoons, using up your energy. Let's see, what else? The future self thing. I've talked about this before. So imagine that your future self is, imagine that you are already at the date where you are going to have to do whatever it is you said yes to. Like, really imagine that. I got asked to serve on a committee, and this was it was a long standing committee. We were going to plan a trip to somewhere and have to go through all the logistics. And I the present me thought, ooh, that sounds fun. I didn't actually imagine what it would be like to meet once a week, every single week for months, for like 2 hours. And if I had thought that through, I would have thought, wow, that's a Monday night. Monday nights, I am usually very tired. I don't think the future me is going to be excited that the past me said yes. So think about that. Let's see. The last thing I want you to do is, oh, not the last thing. Okay, who's everyone? Who's everyone? When you picture those people sitting in a room and talking about you or commenting on you on social media, who are they? And do you really want to base the rest of your life decisions on those people? I mean, think about that. I went to a spring fling at my kids' elementary school the other night, and I didn't volunteer for it this year. Last year, Hope said yes to this like ball throwing thing, which sounds easy, but every single ball went into the bushes and I had to go get it in this like snaky looking area. And the kids would throw it hard on purpose and it would go in the bushes. And by the end of the night, I was like, I'm done. I don't know why I said yes. Not saying yes next year. So this year, when the sign up came around, I thought to myself, I am going to be a participant. I'm going to be one of those moms standing there and like chatting with the other moms. I'm not going to be the one standing at the ball thing. So I said I didn't sign up. I was congratulating myself. And then when I get there, it's pouring down rain and everybody's inside the lunchroom. It is so packed. And not only that, they gave out t-shirts for the elementary school. And so every kid in there had the same t-shirt on. So it was overwhelming, like just chaos. And so I thought, okay, I've already said yes to coming. Like, am I allowed to say no? Am I allowed to leave? And I decided the only person who could give me permission was myself. You're allowed to leave your kids there, I think. Forgive me if I'm not, because I sure did. I told my daughter, have fun. Here's an armband for pizza and sugar, and I'll be back. And I did. I came back in plenty of time, and she was fine. And it felt so good. It felt like relief. But the feeling when I walked in that door was dread. So pay attention to that. We are running out of time, so go watch the YouTube video or go back through and find the Body Compass video or podcast. That's going to tell you how to go through and figure out what your body is telling you to do. And it knows better than your brain. Your body does not lie. That's how lie detector tests work, I found out. You can't fake a lie detector test because your body will not lie. So if you can figure out how to use your body as a compass to tell you yes or no, what are you going to say, then you're gonna like stick with the metaphor of the compass. You're gonna like find your North Star. Here are your final closing tips. Number one, don't say yes immediately. Never say yes immediately. Even if you're tempted to say yes and you feel your body leap with excitement, just say, I'll get back to you. Now, if your boyfriend asks you to marry him, that might be the one time you could say yes immediately. If you say, I'll get back to you, may not go over so well. Number two, check in with your body. So that was the body compass thing. The quick version is, does it feel contracted, tight, dread, or does it feel free and flowing and open? Number three, check in with the future you. If it were the day of the event or the situation, would you be glad you said yes? And the other thing is, 2 years from now, will it matter if you say no? Number four, what would you say if you didn't care what anyone thought? If you really didn't give two hoots about what this person thought about you, what would you say? Number five, what is your gut telling you? What is your gut telling you? You know, you just got to say it out loud. Number six, what do you wish you had permission to say no to? You could have a yes buddy. My friend Amy she uses her husband as her yes buddy, and she runs things by him before she says yes, not because he's like controlling and he's going to shut her down, but she says, when she says it out loud, he knows her better than anybody, and he'll ask her those hard questions like, why are you really saying yes? And so he's kind of her check-in. He's her accountability partner when it comes to saying yes. Number seven, if this thing, oh, I already did that one. Sorry. Number seven, channel your inner badass. So my sister-in-law, Lauren, is my inner badass friend. And I always think, like, what would Lauren say? I asked her if she wanted to go camping for Memorial Day. And she responded, I'm a hard no. No, don't want to do it. And she didn't offer a whole lot of excuses. She's just like, no, not going to do it. So, who do you know who is really good at saying no? And maybe you could channel them. All right, that's it. If you are wanting to talk more about why you say yes when you really want to say no, then I want you to reach out to me. You can email me at hope.cook@gmail.com. If you're interested in life coaching, then yeah, reach out. I may